Today's speaker is Art Snarzyk, and I've actually known Art for quite some time, and what I really like about Art is not only is he very knowledgeable in what he does, but he's a good giving person. If he has the opportunity to help somebody out, he takes it. I've actually worked with him. He helped me to kind of get my hiring act in order. I can do training videos for other people, but when it comes to hiring my own employees, I was having some real difficulties. And Art is the turnover terminator. There you go. And he's going to be talking for us today about its EQ, emotional intelligence, and how that can really make a difference to managers and what achievers, overachievers, or high achievers. All right, so. You have your mic on?
Yeah, I do.
Awesome.
Thank you. That's very nice of you, Sam. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Good to meet some new faces and some old friends. Old, I mean by long-time friends, not age. So just really quickly, about me, I help businesses attract and hire and manage people. I didn't understand people in my own business. I'm an introvert. I got no business giving presentations like this, but I do. I'm a skilled introvert. How about that? But I just couldn't understand people, and so I didn't know why this person worked out in my company and that one was supposed to and they didn't, and so I just started learning more and more about people, and I fell in love with the science of people. So now I measure stuff about people and help us make better decisions or have more information to make great hiring decisions or how to improve other folks. So with that, I also know that my limitations. There's lots of things we can measure about people, but I can't measure the totality of a person, right? You're more than what these assessments that I use can show us. But one piece that's very important is EQ, emotional intelligence. How many have heard of EQ before? Good. And how many feel like you really understand EQ? Maybe not as many? Good. It sounds like this mushy thing, right? Emotional intelligence. Who needs all that foo-foo stuff? We're talking about business here. You just need to come in and work, right? What's all this, mushy emotional stuff? But it's really a game changer in business. We find that top producers have higher levels of EQ. It's also a skill you get to learn. So I believe in multiple intelligences because there's data to back that. Do you have good interpersonal intelligence? Are you good at music? Do you understand music? Do you just wrap your head around that? You guys know people who just get music fast. There's different kinds of ways to understand things, mathematics, verbal. So EQ is just one of those ways of intelligence, measuring intelligence. I put some resources in here. Also, they asked me to come and give you everything I know about EQ in, 20 minutes, so be ready. I know about 25 minutes worth of stuff, but some of my slides will be text heavy, but I do that just because I'm going to print them and give them to you just for coming, okay? So if you see text heavy, don't roll your eyes and get overwhelmed. It's for you after this. But here's some good resources. Anything you read by Daniel Goleman, he really led the charge on emotional intelligence and EQ in the workplace. So if you want to learn more about this, here's some great books. Here's a few notes. IQ, you guys have heard of that. I like to think of that as your processor speed. How fast, how many RPMs does your processor go? And there's been back and forth on whether IQ is really static or not. Can it change? Can we improve it? But EQ is skill-based. It just takes awareness to know that you want to develop better EQ, and then you get to improve that. I'm a case study myself, and I'll tell you how in a little bit. You ever met somebody who's like, boy, that's a really sharp person, but they're off. They're missing something, right? It's usually in this EQ. It's this awareness of ourselves and awareness of what we're doing to other people. I like to think of EQ as almost wisdom, right? Do I know what I'm doing to other people just by being me? Am I aware of that? Really quickly, of course, I use assessments in hiring. I can't use EQ assessments in hiring yet, but EQ, we develop more and more of it in our life. So if you use this during assessments or during hiring process, some people will say you can possibly discriminate against older or younger people. So just beware of that. It's more of a tool to use with existing staff. The it factor. You ever said, hey, that lady, she has it. She's got it. Whatever it is. She walks in the room, I know she's got it. That's usually EQ. So, defined, emotional intelligence is the ability to sense, understand, and effectively apply the power and acumen of emotions to facilitate high levels of collaboration and productivity. Or the ability to manage your own emotional states and the states of others. Because if you can manage the emotional state of other people, well, you're going to get more out of them, right? It's going to be easier for you to do so. Here's my definition. Do you know what you look like when you show up, right? Or are you stepping on your own toes, right? Do you talk too much? Do you talk over yourself? Do you throw in an F-bomb when you shouldn't have, and all that stuff? Or, is this you? Just you're a hot mess, right? But do I know what I'm doing? Or am I getting in my own way? The amygdala, here's our brain. Here's how it works. The amygdala is like the little lizard brain. It processes all those fast emotions, tells us the fight or the flight or freeze, and it makes most of the decisions. Even though most of the brain, this is used for all this processing, right? Information, especially in the prefrontal cortex up here. But here, these are the ones, when something strikes us there, we react. We have to react quickly. And then our brain catches up and tells us why we should act or how we should act. But what happens in our amygdala is it feels things faster than the rest of our brain. And we get hangovers from those feelings. Something bad happens to you today, you're driving to work and somebody runs you off the road. You have a choice there. Usually I'm going to get angry and say, why is this happening? But I have a choice of how long that's going to take to sober up. Do I get to yell at that person, or do I just get to be angry and say, why are people bad drivers today? Or am I going to let that affect the rest of my day? If you have high emotional intelligence, you'll be able to sober up quickly, right? So just think of emotional intelligence as our ability to overcome this amygdala's fast reaction. So when you're in a low emotional state, your amygdala is not working a whole lot. You're calm, you're relaxed. When you're in a high emotional state, anger, fear, frustration, a lot of emotion, and we start to disable this and just go with our gut, go with the lizard responses from our nature and our intuition. So I want to take your temperature. I might watch your faces as we go through a few slides here, but I'm just going to show you some pictures, and they're going to hopefully evoke some emotion, good, bad, whatever. But just take a watch and see what is your emotional temperature. So there's no right or wrong about how you felt about those pictures, right? But some of you said, oh, when you saw the puppies or whatever it was, you couldn't even think about it. It had to come out. That's your amygdala processing that. Oh, one of the more disturbing ones for me, I think, was those children with the flies all over them, and that really happens. I mean, that's crazy to me. But that one really affects me. I have, I don't know, just some feelings about that, right? And that can bother me if I let it. Am I going to let it, or am I going to use that emotion to propel me into action to do something about it? And that's what we're going to talk about a little bit, just understanding EQ and how we can get better at it in the workplace. But do know you're going to have a hangover. If you experience something bad today, it's going to sit with you for a little bit. How long does it take your liver to process those emotions and get rid of all the alcohol? You guys have been out dancing on a Friday night, and you know that, if you partied too hard, it takes way too long, right? I need more coffee and some White Castles at 2 a.m. But how fast can you sober up and get back with your life here? Positive events do the same thing. You get a smooch from your lover this morning before you leave, that might last with you for a little while. That was nice, right? Or some flowers, or a nice thank you note from a coworker. Those are going to stick with you. Maybe you don't want to sober up from those hangovers, right? But some positive hangovers, they create intrinsic motivation. They make us smarter and faster. They make us think better, collaborate with others better, right? When we're in a great mood, when something good happened to us today, usually more engaged. You get run off the road, I'm not going to want to be engaged. I kind of want to yell at somebody. So we just perform at higher levels if we can manage this kind of drunkenness in our brain and keep it there for a while. Negative events, of course, the boss screaming at you or not hitting your goals, traffic, right? Just all sorts of stuff. Oh, you've got mail, right? The inbox, walk in and you've got 80. Steve probably has 300 every morning. But negative hangovers, they're going to affect you oppositely, right? Decrease cognitive performance. I'm distracted. I'm thinking about other things. Defensive, right? I didn't do that. Let me justify why I did that. Easily aggravated. Struggle to get along with others. So you can see that if you can't sober up from these events that happen, or it takes you all day to get past something, or all weekend, then you're going to be less effective. So here are the primary dimensions. There's the intrapersonal, right, inside you, and then there's the interpersonal. So I first have to understand me and what's going on inside of me, and then I'll be able to better understand you and what's going on inside of you, and then I can bridge that and make a difference. How do we get along better? Here are the real breakdowns. So the intrapersonal are these three up top, and then the interpersonal are these two down below. I put them in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because if you develop self-awareness better, I'll read these to you. Self-awareness, and then being able to regulate those emotions, and then to maintain motivation without a carrot, without knowing I'm up for a promotion, just to be motivated because I feel like it. Who wants employees like that, right? So teach them this. But if you improve these, you usually improve the ones that follow. The better you are at regulating yourself, the more motivated you'll be. Does that make sense? Good. Also, if you can stay aware and regulated and motivated, then you might have more empathy and social skills with others. So they improve each other. So being able to recognize what's happening in your moods. I had a problem with this when I first started taking these assessments. I was either happy or not happy, and those were my emotions, right? It was things are going okay, or I got poked in the eye with a stick today. There was nothing in between. And so one of the techniques I used to increase my self-awareness, which improved all of my emotional intelligence, was I just put a little buzzer on my phone, on my clock that went off every 2 hours, and just said, how are you feeling right now? And define that better, right? Am I happy or am I ecstatic? Is this joy? Is this wonder, right? Is this optimism? What am I feeling? But really to define that so that I know how to deal with different kinds of emotions. And it wasn't just happy or angry. It was happy, excited, loved, hopeful, right? Just lots of different emotions. And when you're aware of those, you can regulate them better. But when you know all of your personal strengths and limits, you can really improve who you're going to surround yourself in the workplace with so that they can be the yin to your yang. Having a sense of your self-worth and capabilities. That's good stuff, right? And I want employees to feel that too. I know as a boss, as an owner, I want my employees to feel that so they're productive. But as a human, I want them to feel that because they're humans. And if they're happy being humans in my workplace, isn't that cool? They'll stay here for a while. So I'm not going to go too deep into each one of these. These are going to be text heavy, but that's so you have the printouts. But self-regulation is just being able to take those emotions and being able to regulate them and say, all right, I was feeling angry. Here's what triggered me. Here's how I usually get out of that. Here's what I need to do next. maybe I need to talk with my spouse who didn't like where I put my laundry, right? Never happened to you? No. I see a big smile up front. The men are smiling more. We know we mess it up. And then to stay motivated, to work beyond the reasons of the dangled carrot, right? Not just because there's a reward, but because I want to. And to stay at it. No external prompting. Who wants employees who are going to work with no external prompting? Good stuff? Improve their emotional intelligence. Empathy. How can we understand others if we don't have our own understanding? That's what I learned through this, was if I'm either happy or I got poked in the eye with a stick, then I think that of other people. That's you look happy, you look like you got poked in the eye with a stick. So now I know that you're just putting up with me today and having a nice smile to make me feel good, so I appreciate it.
Don't mention it.
You're welcome. The empathy, though, is really just about, do I understand what other people are feeling, and can I help them through their emotions? And then social skills. Being able to build nice networks, relate with others. Empathy builds onto these social skills. The more empathy I share and understand you and care about what you're feeling, then the more you're going to like me and trust me and let me on your team, and we get to work together. And you know I'm not going to leave you in a ditch. So these are some of the things that you're going to get if you improve the social skills. Why should you care? I'll ask the question for you. Because people with higher EQ are more productive. They can hang up with that upset customer, understand that that's compartmentalized, refresh, get back to work, and do the next activity at a high level. That's why it's important. They make better and clearer decisions without that hijack, without that drunkenness, that emotional hijack. We get to make more clear decisions and use more processing instead of reaction. EQ teams, they just understand each other better. You can see how this works, right? If you have high EQ and you're working on other teams who have other people that have high EQ, your team is going to perform better and you're going to care about each other better and understand each other's needs. So what we're usually finding is managers that are operating at a high level usually have better EQ. They understand what they're doing. They understand that they need to say, how was your weekend before, where are the TPS reports, right? They just know that. It sounds simple, but it's a nice science to put around it. And hopefully the science has given you a little bit better understanding of EQ. So this is what I hope you learned. A little bit of this stuff. We just kind of touched the surface of it. I don't sell when I give presentations. I like to give information and hope that it's really beneficial to you. But I do like to tell people how they can help. So put up with this if you will. But if you hear that somebody's hiring or they just hired, those are good clients for me. If they need to improve people in their business, great clients. And I like to connect with business coaches and accountants and CPAs, other people who solve business problems. Those are my connections. Questions? Can I answer any questions? Yes, Sam.
I have a question. You talked about, you gave kind of one good tip for how to improve your own emotional intelligence. You said that you kind of stopped at certain points during the day to think about how you were actually feeling. What are some other ways to work on your own emotional intelligence, and what can you do if you're trying to help employees with their emotional intelligence? What can you do to help them?
Yeah, so I hate to say that it all starts with an assessment. You can maybe assess on your own a little bit, but with an assessment, it kind of tells you where you need to focus. For me, self-awareness was my lowest factor. Empathy was really pretty high, but as soon as I improved my own self-awareness, my empathy skyrocketed too. So it's really, where is your employee having a challenge? Is it with their self-awareness? They don't understand that they're messing up? Or is it they're getting hijacked and they're staying kind of crotchety all day? And so it's really diagnosed before you prescribe. Steve?
So let's talk about problems.
Problems.
Organization wants to improve its recruiting. They want to improve their leadership. They want to improve their team effectiveness and collaboration. You have people that come in to do DISC profiles. You have people that come in to do Myers-Briggs. You have people that come in to do team building. that people that come in to assess and do EQ, how do you choose which one to do? I mean, it's kind of like you go to a mechanic and you have 5 different ways to fix your car problem,
Yep.
and none of them work.
Yeah. Frustrating, right?
Yeah.
So you guys are familiar with assessments, DISC, Myers-Briggs, Colby, see a lot of knobs. I think it's really important. There's lots of assessment tools out there. You need to talk with somebody who knows a good number of them so that you can say, this is our problem in our organization. What is your prescription for solving that? Maybe I need DISC this time. Maybe I don't need DISC for what we're trying to accomplish. So I think it comes from knowledge of the assessments and understanding what you want to. If it's just communication, I'm going with DISC. If I want to improve my culture, I'm going to go into some deeper motivators. If I want managers to get better, I'm going to look at their management skill set and probably their EQ. Do they know they're messing it up? So,
Of all those, this seems the most pragmatic in terms of getting aware of yourself and your people. It just, I wouldn't call it EQ. I mean, you come in with a name, and then everyone thinks it's the panacea. But if there was another way of getting in touch with yourself,
yeah.
But this seems like the most real, pragmatic way of dealing with it.
It is. You can get pragmatism out of the others. I find that, there are lots of coaches out there and lots of, I use the DISC method, so I'm a little biased there, okay? Katie, you use?
I think DISC, I love Myers-Briggs because you get so much out of it, but it tends to be more complicated for people, so DISC is the practical version of it.
That's it. So I use for the same reason, because I can teach somebody that faster, and within a half an hour you can start recognizing other people's styles, where I find with Myers-Briggs, I get it and I'm starting to understand myself, but I don't know which style you are and I don't know how to get there.
Those also label you.
They do. I don't like to look at any of my assessments as labels. They're great for understanding where I'm at, but they don't give us excuses to continue being a jerk, right? Or a limit on who I'm going to be. Like I said, I'm an introvert, and it was through these assessments that I learned that I am not a people person. I'm not Tony Robbins. If you haven't noticed, I'm kind of over here giving my presentation, right? But I'm not jumping on a table. This is not very exciting. But I realized early on that if I just showed up and I was me all the time, I would drive you guys nuts. Some of you might be sleeping already, right? So I had to have a couple Red Bulls just to get excited and come here and have this much energy, which isn't a whole lot, but they didn't put me in a box. They gave me insights into myself in order to get better. Can I have a couple more minutes?
Sure.
Yeah? I always have some hidden slides. Would you guys like some hidden slides? Since you said you know about DISC, what's interesting, here's EQ applied to DISC styles. One story I have is about the president, and I don't want to get political, but the president he's always been a great example of a high D style to me. Somebody who's very direct, who tells you what they want, who is tenacious and doesn't back down. What I've noticed about how emotional intelligence applies to the DISC styles, I'd like to share that with you. So high Ds, you've met high Ds who are direct and dominant and assertive, and when they have high emotional intelligence, they're going to be ambitious and driving and strong-willed and decisive. But if they have low emotional intelligence, they don't understand what they're doing to other people. They look aggressive or demanding or egotistical, bossy. And I think we can all see the difference in those types of people. And high I folks, these are our fun-loving, exciting people. They're optimistic usually. With low EQ, they chase the squirrels. They're easily distracted. Sometimes they're poor listeners because they want to talk about themselves too much. Maybe a little too flighty or flaky because they're impulsive. All you high I's know about what I'm talking about. But with high EQ, they're going to be warm and enthusiastic. They're really going to be the megaphones of your company if they understand who they are and they understand their limitations and their assets. But if they have low EQ and they don't have this understanding, then sometimes they're going to look a little bit flaky, distracted. They're like Dory in Finding Nemo. Right? They just forget what they were doing and go chase that squirrel. So the S styles are usually those steady and routine folks, predictable and methodical. And with low EQ, those people are so methodical that they almost seem stubborn, right? They're resistant to change because they like the routine. They're slow. The fast-paced people are always wondering why they won't move faster. And people with high EQ, with this high supportive routine, they're going to be stable. They're going to be great team members, the people you can rely on every day that come in, do their thing, do it this way, go home, come back tomorrow and do it the same way, whether you like it or not. But if they have high EQ, they're going to do it in a way that you like it. And then there's the C's. These are my people, the accurate, analytical robots of people. I hope I haven't offended any of you high C's in the room. With low EQ, and this was really interesting when I discovered this about me. This is really where I built some skills for myself. But I noticed, being a high C, I love the details. I love being accurate and analytical, relied on for information. I hate making a mistake. And when I learned that some people are going to misperceive me as picky, fussy, hard to please, I started being hyper aware of that and raising my EQ so that my high C looks more detailed and careful and systematic. So EQ is one piece of people. Our behavioral style in the DISC model is another, but they play with each other, just like other aspects. I measure 7 different sciences of people to help us get better at hiring, managing, and networking. So I want to thank you for having me, first of all, but second, before I go, I just want to make sure that all of you know that EQ, emotional intelligence, isn't this mushy thing. It's not this unquantifiable woo out there in the world. It's stuff that we all need, and it's a skill that we can develop, and I hope you develop yours. Thanks for having me.